Hey everyone, Ariel here from aBlogtoWatch at MicroLUX Chicago with Justin Kraudel of Monta Watches. Justin, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Monta is an American homegrown brand with a Swiss-made product. When did you guys start?
So the brand was conceived in late 2014, early 2015, and we started delivering our first watches in January of 2017. So pre-order was in 2016, leading up to January of 2017.
And I think a very important question that people want to know, especially with newer brands, is why did you start? In this world today, as we know, I think it's important that a lot of historical brands, like we used to make it for pilots, or we used to make it for doctors or soldiers. These days, that's all pretty well settled.
Sure.
Why did you start the brand?
So first of all, two parts answer to that question. Number one, all the credit goes to my business partners, Michael DeMartini and David Barnes. They started a little strap business you may have heard of called Everest. And in the process of doing that, they saw that there was an opportunity in the market to do a watch brand that paid tribute to the traditional 50s and 60s style tool watches, and then couple that with attention to detail, really high quality, and going direct to the consumer. The second part of that question is what I like to tell people. This was not businessmen who saw an opportunity in an industry. This was passionate watch people who wanted to do what they love for a living. And I think our greatest success story is staying true to that, is that when we come out with a watch, we A, listen to our customer base, and B, we make a watch that we as watch guys want to see.
When you go into a very established market that has a lot of icons and a lot of expectations, but you also want to distinguish yourself, what's that process like? How do you make something different enough, but also feels like it belongs in the same classroom as everyone else?
I think it's just listening. To answer your question in one word, and to elaborate on that, it's coming to events like MicroLUX, and it's doing red bar events. It's being active on Instagram and Facebook, and answering the phone when customers call the office. You know, we have a phone number on our website. A lot of people are, I think, maybe surprised when they hear me on the other end of the phone. But it's just listening and saying, for example, the watch you're holding, the Atlas, that was a result of customers saying they love the Triumph, but they wanted to see it without numbers on the dial. They wanted to see us do a dress watch, and GMTs are really hot right now. So take all that, meld it together, and give the people what they want.
I actually want to hear more about what people want. Tell me more about what the customers have been saying.
So what I'm hearing from our customers and hopefully our potential customers is smaller is better. I think, and maybe you would agree with me, that the industry is seeing smaller watches. Maybe it's a throwback, but people are wanting something that's a little bit simpler and smaller for everyday wear. And the other thing that I think bodes well for this watch is that dial color. We've seen a lot of, obviously black is always going to be great, but blue and green has been really popular the last couple of years, and I think this opal and silver, it's been the #1 seller in the pre-order, and everyone who gets to see it is really a big fan.
Opal, that's the color you call it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't know exactly what to refer that. It's
not white, but it looks white. It looks silver. So opal and silver, and that's not our term. That's our dial manufacturer telling us what it is.
Let's get practical for a minute. When people say they want smaller watches, as a product person, how do you decode that statement? What are they really asking for?
Good question. I think the answer to that is looking at what has really worked well in history, whether it's the 36 millimeter Explorer or some vintage Omegas, or any watch that you want to put in that category. And maybe a little bit of what's old is new again, maybe some of that romanticism with vintage, but yet still modern components and modern quality.
I'm going to ask you a complicated marketing question.
Okay.
Monta watches are of a high quality.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it, I can touch it, I know that.
Thank you.
From a marketing standpoint, because you say you talk a lot, you go to these events and things like that, yes, there's going to be people that see it and know it like me and know it like you.
Yeah.
But for everyone else, what's the strategy of saying, this is our price point, this is our quality, we think that this is a good merger of the two?
So how do we tell that story? Yeah. Well, what I've been telling people today is I can put all these great pictures and videos on the internet, and I can have fantastic outlets like aBlogtoWatch do a review, And those are very important. But one of my favorite quotes when it comes to these watches is feeling is believing. And so that's why I take it upon myself to get out on the road, do events like this, get the watches on as many people's wrists and hands as I can. And even if they don't buy one, just to simply have someone that is a watch connoisseur, a watch enthusiast that is educated in the industry enough to say, hey, I've held a Monta watch and the articulating links are amazing. The bevels on the hands, the applied markers, whatever grabs them is what we want people to, that memory to stick with them so that they can be salespeople and go out there and tell the world that they've seen it.
These days, branding is so important to why somebody wants a watch and ultimately buys one. Because as we know, there's a lot of ways to get a high quality, legible, good watch.
Right.
What have you learned about your brand and customers that lead to some possible best practices about how a brand should communicate, behave, or maybe not communicate or behave to customers today?
Definitely communicate. One of my biggest focuses is where I sit as an owner of the brand is cultivating that connectivity to the brand. So you're right. There are new brands popping up every day. There's a lot of really great brands here today that a lot of my customers probably own their watches too. So that connectivity to the brand really comes down to, for me, a great process from the website or if they buy it in person, and then is the service after the sale. And that's where I tell people where I can really set myself apart. You can buy a great watch from a bunch of brands, price aside, but you are not going to get better customer service from anyone. You may get the same level of customer service, but no one will beat Monta when it comes to customer service.
I believe you, but I also think it opens up an interesting question of if you are this proudly American company that really leverages what I think America is excellent as customer service compared to the Swiss. I think we can agree that.
Yeah, sure.
Why then still focus on the Swiss-made product? It's not that it's wrong, but you see how it forces consumers to have to answer some interesting questions.
So I think history and tradition, people are really drawn to that. When you're talking about a mechanical watch, when everyone has the time on their phone or their Apple Watch, there is that tradition of Swiss watchmaking that goes back, hundreds and hundreds of years. And number two is conversations I've had with people in the industry, manufacturers. We're always exploring, looking for new ideas, and there's just things that the Swiss can do that no one else can when it comes to the hands and the dial, the movement. I mean, I know there's some really interesting things going on with hairsprings right now in the US, but for Sellita and ETA movements, for the longevity, the reliability, the price point, all of that just checks all those boxes for us.
And I think that consumers, as they go down the road of learning about watches, they recognize that the Swiss are really great at making a product, but there's people from other places that are better at other things, like customer service or marketing. Do you think that today, given the ability for an American company to easily, well, not easily, but to have a Swiss-made product, gives consumers a level of choice where they can say, I like that design, but I want that marketing, and I love that customer service?
Right.
That seems to be available now more than ever before. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, but in that instance, you can't say, I want ABC watch with Monta customer service. And right, I mean, that doesn't exist. So it's motivation for us to continue to up our game. As good as I think we are at customer service, we can always be better and continue to get better and continue to design better quality products too.
If you talk to pretty much any retailer that sells watches in the world, I'm talking about like a brick and mortar retailer, and you ask them like, what's your competitive edge? They say the same thing. They say customer service. Let's unpack that statement a little bit and explain to me, what does good customer service in this space actually translate into? To
me, it's being upfront, honest, and somewhat under-promising, over-delivering, if you know what I mean. But in that sense, if a customer has a problem with their crown and I know it's going to take a week to have it replaced, I'm going to tell them 2 weeks because I'm probably going to come in right at about a week. And so it's just being forthright. It's really easy. Customer service is a very easy thing to do. I think the biggest challenge is organization. I'm a fairly organized person. I also have an amazing staff person who's probably even better organized than I am. So that allows me to focus on sales while she handles the customer service aspect. But ultimately, it's just do it and do it right and take care of your customer. And I think a lot of people, they I don't know if they get lazy or they get sidetracked, but not to go on to another tangent here, but the thing for me is in my previous career, I was in finance and a lot of things were out of my control. I have full control over this. If it comes down to replacing the customer's watch, which I've done before, that's what I'm going to do. And that may hurt my bottom line, but it's the right thing to do. And I sleep really good at night knowing that I'm doing the right thing.
And I second what you just said, and I'll add a statement to it that I found to be very true. And that is, especially in America, if you make the customer feel like you're speaking to them, that you care about them, and ideally that they are special,
right?
It doesn't even matter what you're selling. Right. They want to do business with you.
Loyalty, and they'll tell all their friends. Yeah.
So let's just talk about prices really quick. This model is the Monta SkyQuest. And how much does this cost?
$1,925 US on bracelet.
So this is a GMT watch, and this other model here
GMT.
is also a GMT. And what's the name of this model?
This is our brand new, it's the Atlas.
The Atlas. And what's this price?
On bracelet, $1,795 US.
It's pretty similar prices.
Yeah.
Different watches. And would you say that's an average price of the brand?
Yes, that one in particular. We range from $1,550 to $1,925. So somewhat tight range in there, and that one falls right in the middle.
Justin, thank you so much for speaking to us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.